Each week, as I contemplate appropriate dialogue that might be engaged in as I invite the muses and the celestial participants to draw in closer, that we might be able to gain at least a little insight into what is appropriate for each of us to pay attention to for the week ahead. Earlier this morning, the moon, which is the fastest orbiting body in relation to the Earth, conjoined with the sun. In other words, the new moon. When considering the energy signature that each of these lunar solar conjunctions brings for contemplation, they take place in an area of the zodiac that bring factors or put factors onto the table for us to meditate upon, at least think about, as we determine what is it that this new cycle ahead may require. Each of the new moons can appropriately be a time for setting intentions related to exactly where it is transpiring within the zodiac, yes, but within our own particular astrological matrix. So, depending on how well you know your chart, where is 9 degrees of Gemini? And what might your version of how Gemini can, would, could, should be played tickling you? What is it that may be beneficial as a launching point to consider for this next lunar cycle? It's Gemini, so has something to do with our perceptive capacities. It also has something to do with our curiosity. What are the intriguing things that make us want to learn things? Is there a study program that may be, gnawing at the edges of what it is you're feeling right now? We're still in Mercury retrograde through most of this week, but not all of it. Mercury has reached the degree where it's going to station and turn around at 26 degrees of Taurus. But it's still inching its way backwards. One thing about a planet when it is in that stationing mode is that it hangs around at a particular focal point, shall we say, in the zodiac for a time. And in the whole astrological matrix, or the celestial dance moves that the planets utilize, the process that unfolds when a planet is slowly moving through a particular point or zone of the zodiac is that that particular planetary energy is increased. We often look at the outer planets, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune, because they'll hang around at a degree for months, weeks, much longer than days, to help us focus more particularly on what it is that point of the zodiac within our own personal matrix may require just a bit more pondering. It's like there's a, and it can be played in a lot of different ways. One is, if there's a challenge that particular part of the zodiac represents for you, it's going to hang with you for a while. It's not like you can readily relieve an itch that is being stimulated by something in that position. But just as likely, if it happens to be something extremely delightful, why would we want to rush through it? It's something that, it's exciting to us. We don't want it to quit. Well, that isn't always how it works. And what we're talking about right now is Mercury in retrograde. How we think, how we talk. What is it we want to learn? How effective is it the process of our perceptive capacities able to conjure up new thoughts, new ideas, new ways of putting pieces together? It's Gemini that Mercury rules, as well as Virgo. And this new moon is in Gemini. So that means that Mercury, which is sitting there at 26 degrees of Taurus, has got things to say in relation to a direction that this particular new moon might want us to pay attention to. There's a lot of different ways that the muses are telling me to play this game this morning, so bear with me. This is Dane Rudger wrote a book called An Astrological Mandala, in which he took the information Mark Edmund Jones, put together with the psychic Elsie Wheeler back in about 1913, 1915 or something like that, and got psychic images for the 360 degrees of the zodiac. And then neither one of them knew what the particular degree of the zodiac they were utilizing was. And Mark would write down the image that the psychic would get on the back of the card, and then went and put it together. And Mark Jones and Dane Rudger were very good friends. These were astrological peeps back in the day, in the earlier part of this century. And Rudger went to Mark and said, say, Mark, can I play with those things? What the term was Sabian symbols. I can't tell you where Sabian symbols came from, but it's not a new term. And so Mark said, yeah, absolutely. They came through from, another dimension. So they're not really mine, have at it. Anyway, the symbol for this particular new moon reads an airplane performing a nosedive. The keynote is a superior ability to challenge nature and play with danger. Further explanation of this from Dane Rudger is, through the controlled use of mental powers, man is able to challenge the most basic force in nature, gravitation. He enjoys playing with it as a lion tamer with his violent animals. But what he challenges is within himself as well as outside. Gravitation is the universal binding force of the material world. By challenging it, man prepares himself to pierce beyond the physical and to reach higher realms of existence. He may lose the struggle, but that prospect makes the effort more exciting. He might gain immortality. The symbol for it has a strong sense of finality. No possibility of half measures exist. Man is committed irrevocably to success or failure, at least as a conscious and self-resilient mind. The alternatives are clear-cut. One may describe it as mind versus matter, or as man's will against the fate that gravitation so aptly symbolizes. Over the weekend, I had a gravity thought. This is going to be a little bit different than what generally I do in these astrological considerations each week. But bear with me. I'm going to invite you to sit back and get comfortable. Close your eyes if you want, and take some deep breaths. And allow these breaths to go deep, deep, deep down into what it is that you understand yourself to be. And with each breath, I want you to recognize that we're going to go for a walk into nature. Now, each of us is going to go to a unique place, something to aim for is a place in nature that you have, been before, likely, where you felt so comfortable, actually delighted to be there. It's not a place where there's generally much human traffic, so there's a stillness to it. And I want you to feel as you're getting closer to the center of this place. Feel gravity. What is that sensation? Can you feel earth underneath your feet pulling and pulling upon you? This sensation makes you want to sit down, and you can hear nature all around you. And as this gravitational pull increases, you feel like you want to lie down. And so we do. We lie down there on the ground in the center of this absolutely amazing natural theater. And you become aware of the pull of Mother Earth upon every aspect of you. The sensation is almost as if you're being pulled into and blending into the very soil you are laying upon. Let go. Allow this gravitational pull to infuse every aspect of what you understand yourself to be. You are being invited by Mother Earth to recognize a connection that you have always had with her. At the same time that this gravitational pull seems to draw you deeper within the earth, there's a responding energy exuding outward. It is the resources, the minerals, the very vibration of Mother Earth pushing up and outward, giving you all the building materials, the raw building materials of what it means to be an incarnate being. And so you have this flow both inwards and outwards from Mother Earth. Gravity is pulling you in, and yet there is a strong push outwards, an expression that, fills every core of your being with energy. This is the resonance and the opportunity that each of us has to utilize effectively the resources of Mother Earth that she has gifted us with as a human incarnate being. Now, she isn't just doing this for us humans. That drawing down of the roots of all the plants upon the planet, and the feeding back of the minerals and resources to allow a tree to grow and exist for however long it requires, from thousands of years old to having been born only yesterday. We share this energy with all creation. All living life feels the pull of gravity and feels the energetic resources being spun up through it in a spiral type pattern that gives us meaning and desire. When we know this, we recognize our connection to every living being that exists upon Mother Earth. We are connected at a vibrational, energetic level to everyone, to everything. We would send out at this time a thank you to our planet, to Mother Earth, and to all our fellow creative, energetic beings for the opportunity to participate together in allowing what can transpire here on Earth to be meaningful. So feel the lightness of that energy coming up from the earth, and it's strong enough to work with gravity and allow us to sit up, stand up, and walk ourselves back out of this wonderful, beautiful place as we glance around and thank it for being there. And thank everyone else on your wavelength for their presence. So we're going to walk back into waking everyday life and get back to the considerations of what it is the zodiac characters are playing as the music for the dance moves that we might contemplate for the week ahead. our new moon. Feel that. Remember what we were talking about in the Sabian symbol about gravity and that challenge of trying to eke out challenging gravity. What about working with gravity and recognizing that it is a breathing kind of energy, to and fro, that we as energy beings have a capacity to embrace and enfold in unique fashion, to utilize as an effective tool for growing who we really intended to be when we incarnated here on the planet. And this new moon there is asking us, are you ready to step up to the plate? Challenge in some fashion this gravitational pull? Can you see that possibly part of the challenge of this gravitational pull might be the recognition of that inherent quality of connection to a source that everything is connected to the Mother Earth, to a place where our souls recognize one another. And so the curiosity of Gemini asks us to go out and discover more. What else is there? Hopefully you're not feeling too stuck in the situations that you find yourselves, because the wild world of energy beckons us all the time to participate. Be a part of the energy that is coursing through all of us simultaneously. And that's kind of the message of this particular new moon in Gemini. There's information waiting for us to discover. But we have to have the curiosity and utilize it in order to locate it. Mercury is essentially the main factor going on this week. It's not the only factor. We'll get to the other. There's one other one. But Mercury on the second stations, which means it comes to a stop at that 26 degrees of Taurus. On the 3rd, which is Friday, it stops going backwards entirely and starts moving forward again. Think of our breath, a thing that we just utilize to go and do this investigative, magical place within nature that perhaps only we know of as the out-breath and the in-breath perhaps becomes a little bit easier, more regular, more in flow, not feeling levels of potential restriction that our thoughts may have had to deal with during this fairly intense Mercury retrograde cycle. And now we're being invited into being able to, test the waters with our conversations for some of the factors that we may have pondered during this Mercury retrograde cycle and had just a little bit of an issue with being able to share with others. Perhaps our words wandered into muddle land. Muddle. I'm not talking about muggles, although, I think there might be some kind of an energy connection there. But during a Mercury retrograde cycle, we may have a dynamic thought that we really want to share with people, but, having it here and allowing it to come out of here doesn't always pan out as effectively as we might hope. And part of the process for alleviating that intensity, that tension factor, is that if we're not utilizing the heart as the vehicle to allow what comes off our tongue, then all these thoughts that we have up here may not be filtered appropriately to what needs to be shared with one another. One more gravitational consideration for this week. This is Saturday. The Spanish word for Saturday is sábado. Saturday is a Saturn day. On Saturday, Saturn is going to begin to stop. It stations, it stops its forward motion at 25 degrees of Aquarius. And it's the ruler of Aquarius. Saturn is our life teacher planet. It stands for regulation, rules, methodology. And it's going to be retrograde until October 23rd. So we're going into one of those cycles like what I was talking about to begin with, where the planet is slowly going to be moving backward through Aquarius from where it is there at 25 degrees of Aquarius. It's going to move back to, looks like about 18 degrees of Aquarius, which, by the way, is where my conjunction of Mars and Mercury are. I kind of look forward to that stimulation, we shall say, as Saturn, the life lesson teacher, sits upon my Mars-Mercury conjunction, which are only 8 minutes apart at that 18 degrees of Aquarius. And something that I utilize all the time, Mercury. Remember, we've been talking about Mercury? With Mars sitting only 8 minutes from my Mercury, I have a tendency to, avidly think very rapidly. It's, call it a curse or a gift, but, those synaptic connections within my brain capacity, which, I have learned to utilize as also within my heart capacity, because we have the same kind of energy matters in both our heart and our mind, to try and take care in what it is that I say or I allow it to leap off my tongue and leap off my tongue. I tell you, it happens. And I can't make an apology for it. It's the way I run. But Saturn, as it does its dance moves through Aquarius, it's going to ask us some questions. I would format Aquarius as an energy which speaks to community, because that is part of the basic energy that Aquarius stands for. How effectively, how humanitarian can an Aquarius energy function in being able to, and in this case, the stimulation that is and can possibly be inspiring to this Saturn retrograde cycle, which is going to last for months, is to, utilize anything that today we may have picked up on our little journey into that special place in nature that gave us the opportunity to recognize our connection to everything, to everybody, and that is the essence of true community. And part of the discomfort or the disjointed nature of modern society here on planet Earth is a result of there not being the recognition of communal sharing of what it is each of us represents one to another. So as Saturn, our life lesson, tickles the ideas of what does it mean to be in community? I would just invite you to go back to that special place in nature whenever you want to. You have the capacity. And tune into that community kind of nature that you have with Mother Earth as a resonance and a recognition of the energy of connection you share with all of life, because that is the essence of how community functions. We need more of that on planet Earth. Just a last note before we go is the Sabian symbol for that degree that Saturn has been sitting on for weeks and will be for weeks more as it turns around and begins its retrograde dance back through Aquarius. A garage man testing a car's battery with a hydrometer. The keynote: skill in applying knowledge of natural laws to the solution of everyday problems resulting from life in our technological society. We do live in a technological society. Anyway, here we see a man using his analytical mind to check up on the operation of the machines his inventive genius produced. This simple commonplace operation is used here as an indication of how deeply technology involves us in small matters, yet matters which, in some circumstances, could make the difference between life and death, i.e., a mechanical failure in a car on a crowded freeway. I lived in Southern California for a while, and this is the case in many places around the globe. I've also lived in Tokyo. I think of the vast quantities of vehicles on the roads, and when one vehicle has an issue, it really messes up a lot of things rather quickly. So the need for management, therefore, is seen to affect every detail of our individual lives. This applies as well to the complexities of interpersonal, social, or political relationships, because our modern society is indeed like a huge machine speeding on dangerous ground. Safety depends on available power. It tells us that we constantly need the use of our intellectual power of observation and analysis to check on the effectiveness of the energies at our disposal. It is a symbol of mental efficiency. And I would put a special spin on that. This is some of your mental capacity. This heart is the filter to which we might be more appropriate in what it is that this brain spins for us to share with others. If it comes from our heart, it connects to our soul. And soul is something that is part of all of us. So thank you for participating with us this week. We will be landing shortly, and I wish to welcome you to the new element of this week's new moon as we share the adventure and journey forward. Ciao for now.